All right. Hello, everyone. It's Jason Fierno from the Mining Mavericks. The Mining Mavericks are a curated group of industry leaders who are passionate about making the industry better and more sustainable for everyone. Today, I'm excited to be joined by James Kerr. James is currently Group Executive at UMS Group of Companies. Welcome, James. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, looking forward to our conversation here. Just a quick hits on your bio for the sake of our audience. You've got about over 15 years of experience in the industry. You've worked for companies such as Keir Associates. You've worked for Fluor. We said it already. You're with the UMS Group of Companies, and you've also worked for TKG Mineral.
Yes.
Excellent.
And mainly all in the underground mining and vertical shaft or mine ore body access space. Design mine infrastructure so companies can access their ore bodies underground.
Excellent. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So if I understand correctly, you've focused predominantly, started within the mechanical engineering space.
Yes.
You've done other roles as well, but you got your start as a mechanical engineer. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. Then I joined a company on a vertical shaft project and slowly worked up the ranks. I find engineering as a whole, you do a lot of management as part of your job. You design something, you manage the process up to having it constructed. So engineering kind of does lend itself to getting into the project management and the management in general role.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Certainly see folks that have raised the ranks from engineer or draftsman up to project manager, project director, obviously into corporate roles as well. Mm-hmm. So can be a great launch pad, no question.
Absolutely.
So tell me this, I'm just curious. We established this already. You're in Johannesburg, South Africa right now, which is a mining epicenter, I guess, if you will. But
yeah, an interesting fact about Johannesburg, actually, it's one of the very few cities in the world that was not established on a major river. Huh. And it was established where it was because of the gold rush and the gold mining that took place.
Is that right? And what? Give us some more. That's interesting. What else can you tell us about that?
Well, it's the economic hub of South Africa. Again, being unique in that it's not on the coast or on a river. So everything gets shipped from the coast to Joburg. Water also gets piped in from quite a distance away.
Wow.
So yeah, it's an interesting place to stay. There's a lot of geological features in the area. It's actually a big basin, and a very long time ago, a meteor hit, which aided in the formation of I'm not a geologist, so I'm probably getting this horribly wrong. But it aided in the formation of all the reefs for the gold. And
that's how
it started.
I didn't know that. I love it. You learn something new every day. Is that so? Out of curiosity, how did you how did you land in the mining industry? Where does your desire to be in mining and metals come from? You said you're not a geologist, so it's not playing with rocks.
No. As you said, I studied mechanical engineering and did a lot of sailing in my varsity days. And one of the guys I sailed with was working in the industry. And at the time, there was a big shortage of skills again. The mining was in a super cycle. And so I sent my CV to him, and that's how I got my start. And then just went from strength to strength.
Okay, sure. Sailing, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah.
You're from Joburg, where there's no water, yet you're a sailor.
I grew up in Durban, which is on the coast.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, before we hit record, we were starting to talk a bit about I think what you said is mining is the ultimate boom or bust industry. And you were starting to tell me what you were seeing right now. So I'm curious, where do we fit in your mind in that boom or bust cycle today in 2021?
Well, I think we're at the beginning of a boom cycle. For quite a few years now, mining companies have been holding back on capital development and on new exploration. But now things seem to be really, really picking up. And as I say, I think we're at the start of a very big uptick, especially driven by the drive for cleaner energy. So your coppers, your lithiums, battery minerals are really, really picking up. Also with the large, the whole world's currently going through the COVID crisis. And a lot of people tend to die for gold when things like that happen. So that's also adding into the equation. So and because companies haven't done very much for so long, they've kind of got to the stage where if they don't start doing some capital investment, they're going to go out of business. So all of those things are almost coming together in a perfect storm, and things are really, really hotting up.
Yeah, I know I feel it. I know my clients feel it, as well as the contractors that service mining companies. They certainly have been feeling it and feel it as well. With the UMS group, how do you folks find the resource pool in the market of qualified and capable individuals?
It's getting harder and harder. You tend to rely on your network as much as you can. But there comes a point where you've kind of called on everyone you know and they are really with you. You basically throw it out there. And quite a few years ago, I actually started chatting to a few friends, and we sort of identified this as a problem. And how do you find skills? Because at the moment, all the sort of employment recruiting tools that are out there, you kind of look for a mechanical engineer or you look for a designation. You don't physically look for skills. And you get mechanical engineers that are great on process. You get mechanical engineers that are great on piping or bulk materials handling or whatever. If you're looking for, say, a bulk materials person, you don't necessarily want to see CVs from a person that specializes in piping, because it's very time consuming. So we started sort of designing an application that does exactly that. We've called it My Works Log. It stands for My Work Experience Log. And it enables people to actually log their experience as they earn it. It's a combination between a CV and a timesheet. So when companies are looking for a particular skill, they post a vacancy and say, we want these skills, and it actually matches people with those skills. It's an international platform. So you can actually find someone in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, in fact, that has the skills you need. One thing at UMS, we're also finding we've got a lot of contracts that are outside of South Africa. And I know in the States, in Brazil, in Australia as well, the professional engineers that got to sign off designs have to be in that region. So you've got to find those skills, even if you've designed it, say, in South Africa, it has to be approved for use in other countries. So you've got to find those skills as well. So yeah, using that platform, you can hopefully find skills more easily doing that.
And okay, yeah, thanks for that. I know that that you're a contributor to My Works Log. What is driving the passion behind putting energy into that platform, into that solution?
Well, one of my passions is actually the management of knowledge and information. And it's one of my performance areas at UMS, so that we can actually find the information we need quickly and efficiently. And in doing that, kind of realized that the same can be done with knowledge and experience in people. Look, way back when knowledge was recorded and people writing letters and writing journals. The old sailing ships and ships today as well used logs. And a lot of the knowledge from, say, James Cook's expeditions came from his log. And that practice has been largely lost today, which is a problem, because that means a lot of knowledge is being lost. And very often as well, people don't realize the skills they're using. I mean, in this interview, as an example, not only are we in an interview, in a discussion, we're using Zoom, we are covering a whole host of subjects, which are skills at the end of the day. I know a friend of mine said, well, I do financial management. I said, well, what else do you do? And they said, no, I do financial management. It's like, well, no. The skills you need for that, you use Excel, you use Xero or Sage for your accounting. Those are skills. So people actually don't realize the skills they're using on a daily basis. And if you don't record them down often, which is where my Wexlog comes in, you record them down sort of every week or every 2 weeks, so they stay fresh in your mind, you tend to forget that you had them. And then someone asks you in an interview or somewhere, oh, can you do this? And you say, well, no. And then later you realize, wait a minute, in that project, I did actually do that. So yeah, I can. So that's what the whole app is actually trying to do. And also to feed into find resources at UMS where I'm in charge of all the technical resources.
Okay, so all the technical resources fall under your purview, which makes it your problem. That makes sense.
Yeah, I've got to supply resources to all the projects. Or technical resources, yes.
Technical resources, yeah, sure. And where do you see the biggest gaps in the technical side of our business in terms of resources?
The current skills are typically sort of late 30s and up. There's a massive gap below that. The students that have been coming through don't see mining as being a sexy industry, possibly also because it's been through a bit of a bust. So there wasn't a lot of hiring going on. So as a natural result of that, people haven't come into the industry. So those skills and resources are just not there. So yeah, going forward, and a lot of resources are actually retiring out of the industry just through natural attrition. So yeah, that is going to become more of a challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. What became obvious to me years ago was that there's a generational gap. Certainly there are folks that are, from the previous cycle that are now well into their retirement age or beyond, and some stay and consult, but for the most part, they're moving on. And then there's a vacuum of 20 to 30 years, depends on how you slice it, which ends up in that range that you're talking about. You've got folks that are kind of mid 30s to mid 40s that are what I've classified as the new generation of leaders. But what you've hit on is something that hasn't been as obvious to me is that big generation gap, but that's the wave behind the 35 to 45-year-old, the new generation of leaders. There's a vacuum behind us as well.
Yeah. And with the additional challenges, with the much higher focus on environment and all the rest, mining doesn't have it's got a very bad perceived reputation in that area. Not helped by a couple of slimes dams failures and the like. So yeah, no, mining as an industry has got some work to do.
No, I couldn't agree more. Actually, that's been a topic of conversation for a lot of the Mavericks discussions, which is, and one of the Mavericks called out that mining doesn't always know who their customers are. Yeah. And as a result of that, how do you market to no customer? And I think that's a really interesting conundrum we find ourselves in, but one we do nonetheless. Any thoughts on that? What do you see maybe within what UMS is doing, but also within, say South Africa or, wherever you want to take it? But I'm curious what your perspective is on that.
Knowing customers, but also knowing stakeholders.
Mm.
In modern times, communities are playing a much, much larger part in the mine because it's in their backyard. They're very, very wary of damage done to the environment and things like that. And mining companies today have actually stepped to the plate, and they are doing a lot of work to ensure the environment doesn't get destroyed. But there's that perception that has to be managed.
Mm.
There's that, I mean, in parts of South America as well, communities make mining very, very difficult because that relationship's not managed too well. South Africa, we've had similar situations. But you just got to learn as you go along and just have people to engage at the right levels with stakeholders in general to a mine, to mining projects and the like, because ultimately the community around the mine probably benefits from the minerals that are taken out the ground, but they aren't direct customers. But they can really upset the operation, so they kind of got to be kept on side as well.
Totally. No, absolutely. I agree with you. I really, really do. I would ask the question, what best practices, if you will, have you seen, or what have you seen that works, or what have you seen that doesn't work in terms of community engagement and ensuring that that you've got your social license to operate? Is there anything you can shed a light on for us there?
You've got to involve the community as much as possible in the operations of the mine. You've got to take them on the journey. You definitely have to take them on the journey. In South Africa, we've had a lot of problems in that the mining companies engage with the leaders in the community, but then the leaders don't sort of pass that down into the community. So you kind of got to get involved in all levels, not just at the sort of the upper levels of the community. And just keep your ears to the ground and just be aware of what's happening. And if you see something on the horizon, deal with it. Don't let it sort of get up to speed and start running, because if it starts running, you're going to battle to catch it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that for sure. It makes me think of the circumstances in Peru with the recent change in power. And I know that the new, I believe it's President Castillo, is making statements that he's going to increase the tax burden on mining companies and therefore increase the tax revenue for the government. And what I read is that mining companies are saying, okay, yes, we're profitable. I mean, in one instance, gold is up, and as a result of that, our cash flow is larger. Yes. However, we're taxed more than anyone already. And then where does the money go once it goes from the top? Does it really filter down? And I think that is what you're suggesting a bit as well.
Yeah, almost you manage where your tax goes. You pump it directly into community and say, look, here's proof. We paid it into the community. We built those roads. We built those, the water articulations. We've given them power. Take that off our tax. We know it's going to our community, because in South Africa, it's a big problem in that, we pay the taxes and you just never see them again. And the community around the mine gets very upset because they're not seeing the benefits.
Yeah, I think that's a global problem. I really, based on everything that I've seen within my travels, it's certainly something that is a challenge universally, it seems anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Almost a case of you're killing the goose that lays the golden egg. Yeah.
How tight are you going to squeeze? It kind of makes me think of what I've seen from afar, I guess, within South Africa specifically. I was involved within the last handful of years with a project, or I've been involved with multiple projects in South Africa. But what I noticed a few years ago, having been out of the country for a while and then stepping back into it, is that the contractor base for construction companies, like the big four, is just dead. And at least this, again, this is my outsider view, and you can shed some light on this here in a minute. But it makes me think of that, killing the goose that laid the golden egg. Whereas what I've experienced, what I've seen is mining companies whittling contractors' profits down to nothing so that they have very little room to operate, and putting high risk for cost and schedule overruns and stuff like that. But maybe you can give us a unique vantage point, being a South African and in the industry.
Well, we've absolutely experienced that ourselves, and we're experiencing it ourselves as well. It's what we found is when on capital projects, when dealing with consultants, you've got a bit more leeway. Not leeway, but the consultants kind of understand your problem because we're in the same boat. But a lot of knowledge in mining companies themselves has left the industry. So they're actually suffering from the same problems with skills. And the people coming in don't understand that everything is part of a system. So if you whittle down your contractors to such a point where they are, look, everyone's in business to make a profit. I always tell my team, we're in business to make a profit, but you mustn't make a profit at the expense of your client. So yeah, make a fair profit, but don't go overboard. The client, a lot of companies are actually pushing it too far the other way now. In that they would, as you say, they're whittling you down so much. There's actually, well, why are you in business? So again, a lot of contractors are actually leaving the mining industry because of that. So now when companies want work done, some people just say, no, we're not interested. Flat. Well, we've gone through the pain. We've changed to another industry, and we're not willing to go through that again.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'd take it a step further too, to say that I'm aware of contractors that are rating and ranking mining companies, whether they're an A client, B client, C client, or even D. And because resources are so thin, if a D client comes to you as a contractor and you're like, I know they're going to whittle me down, I know it's adversarial, why would I put my resources on it? They're saying thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, or they go in with an absolutely astronomical price, and it's like, take it or leave it.
Yeah, exactly. Sadly, I've seen instances where that's the only bids that mining companies get, and that's not good for the mining. I mean, that's not good for the industry in general. Forget about whether it's good for the mining companies or contractors or even the communities. It's just bad.
Yeah,
drives me crazy.
No.
Tell you the truth, it drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah, but everything is a sinusoidal curve. It's everyone, what do they say? It's been a good negotiation when everyone's walking away slightly upset.
Yeah, fair enough. I am a huge proponent of win-win, and I think given the right amount of time and the right attitude, you can get to win-win. Yes. Otherwise, why even play the game? Win-lose doesn't work. It doesn't benefit us.
No, it's not sustainable. It's
just
win-lose. Yeah.
Well, case in point sorry, go ahead.
No, Karen?
Case in point with the construction base within South Africa. Where'd they all go?
Yeah. And look, unemployment in South Africa is at all-time highs. So a lot of them didn't go anywhere. They just closed shop, and that's the end of that. And a lot of the managers and the supervisors actually left South Africa and have gone to Botswana, Namibia, all over the world. So the country as a whole has lost huge exodus.
That's not good either. Yeah, that's not good either. Yeah, there's a lot to that, so I don't know that I want to unpack that right now. But I sure understand and appreciate what you're saying. South Africa is dynamic in and of itself, so there's a lot to that in terms of policy and things like that. But it is interesting to note that there are folks that are leaving the industry, which is exactly the opposite of what we need. If we're getting ready to go through this boom cycle and everybody's leaving, what are we going to do? So what are you doing to make sure you have the resources that you need from a technical standpoint?
We're getting smarter with the information we have internally. As I was saying, I'm in charge of the management of the knowledge within the company.
Right.
So we manage the knowledge to the extent that we can reuse a lot of things, and we don't need to spend as many hours redoing designs. We have a good structure to start with, and we customize that to meet our clients' unique needs. And just utilizing technology to the best of our abilities. The full 3D in the design office, integrating that with how our structural engineers do the design models, so they can take it straight out of the model and into their design codes, and saving time there. So it's maximizing the efficiencies of our people largely. We're also now starting to focus on bringing in people straight out of school, so we can sort of introduce them to the industry, and try and get them interested in it again. So it's doing that. So yeah, it's not, there's no silver bullet. There's you've got to bring in a mix of solutions in and build it up like that slowly. It's not going to happen fast.
No, that's right. It's not, but I'm happy to hear that you're engaging the new talent early. I think that's absolutely critical to fill that second wave or second vacuum of resources within the industry. So that's really good. It makes me think, I want to ask you the question, what do you see for your mining clients? What are their top priorities that they're coming to you and saying, like, are they focused on people? Are they focused on systems? Are they focused on price? What are the trends that you see from your client side in terms of what they're really asking for, what they're looking for?
They looking to try and get the biggest bang for their buck. They're looking to extend the life of their asset as much as they possibly can. We're doing a lot of shaft rehabilitation work at the moment.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's far cheaper to rehabilitate a shaft than to sink a new one.
Sure.
So some shafts in South Africa are 70 years old and still in operation.
Wow.
Some of those shafts do need a lot of work, and we've actually done a number of inspections in shafts where steel work has just gone. It's just been corroded away. But it's still cheaper to get that fixed up and operating again than to sink a completely new shaft. So we're seeing a lot of that. So yeah, sweating their assets a lot more and extending their lives. Obviously, with mines of years gone by, were staffed by many more people than they are now. So that's for many reasons: technology, and also economics of mines. So yeah, there's, as I said, everything's a system. You've got to learn how the system works in order to find the optimum solution and to maximize the economics at the end of the day.
Yeah, makes sense. That's interesting. I didn't know there was the shaft rehabs going on like that. But if you've got something that's in place for 70 years and you need more air or another place to bring equipment or even material, whatever the case may be, I could certainly see how that would be more cost effective. Because what I've seen, and I'm not a shaft guy, but it's hard and it's expensive and it's unpredictable.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, a vertical shaft's a grudge purchase. Bottom line. So with the knowledge we have in UMS, we try and sort of give the most efficient cost to actually sinking that shaft. And also it's the last option. If you can go decline, go decline. If you can go open pit, rather go open pit. But a lot of open pits have been in operation for a long time already.
Right.
And they've reached the point where it's uneconomical to take another cut. There's just too much overburden. So they kind of have to go underground. And then we start looking at whether you go on a decline is the best. And Australia loves their spiral declines. They've tended to stay away from vertical shafts as much as they can. But there's economics to that. A spiral decline that's longer than a certain length becomes uneconomical again. Ventilation goes up. People fall asleep in the trucks when the steering wheels are at the same angle all the time. Sometimes a shaft is the most economical answer. So we help our clients sort of establish which is their best solution to access their ore body.
Do you feel like you're engaged early enough in the process more often than not to be able to influence the design decisions like that? Or do you feel like companies are coming to you saying, this is what we want, go build it, or go sink it rather?
A bit of both. UMS has got a rather unique offering in that we've got the engineering consultants and the contractors. You can see in the picture behind me, you've got UMS Mets, who's the consulting side, and Shaft Sinkers, who's a company that's been around a long, long time to do the actual contracting. So we've had two clients of late that's come to us that we've actually got on board very, very early, and we've really assisted them. But often as well, clients come to us and says, "Yeah, well, this is the way we've got to go," and it's like, not really so sure about that. So yeah, having the knowledge we have does allow us to quite quickly see what your best option is.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all seen the curve of, influence early on based on the value that you're going to create or lose later. So yeah. I think we as an industry at least know that you should get involved earlier. Whether we put it into practice, I don't know. I think it's hit or miss.
It is hit or miss. And it also goes to the experience of the people on the client side.
100%.
That they need to know a certain amount of, or have a certain amount of knowledge as well. And if they just don't have it, they try and do as much as they can. I mean, that's human nature. But it can kind of take you in the wrong direction. It's better to engage sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree with you. I absolutely 100% agree with you, and certainly advise our clients to make sure you're getting the expertise early so that you can impact the study and eventual execution or implementation of the project. What is it, James, about this industry that you find rewarding? Because what we're talking about is it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy. Not easy at all. So what is it that you find to be rewarding, or what keeps you coming back every day?
Well, if you just look around the room where you are, I mean, a lot of the things you see exist because of mining. I mean, TVs, phones needs copper, electricity needs copper. It's all mining. Even the bricks in the wall, it's mining. It came out of a quarry, it went into bricks. Stones in the road, it's mining. So without mining, you don't have life's creature comforts. And knowing that you're actually contributing to technological advancement through mining, that actually, it gives you a good feeling. Sure. And a lot of people say, well, mining's been around for ages. It has, but it's got us to where we are now. And a lot of mining is still very, very basic, but it's also very advanced. Again, it all contributes to one greater system. Take take mining out of the equation, and life as we know it kind of stops.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, it sure does. I've referenced it a few times, but I mean, I think most of us within the industry have seen what Mark Kudafani said recently at CIM, in the sense that, mining impacts, I think he said 43% of the global economy. So if you pull that lever and stop that lever, yeah, life as we know it will change. I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. What do you think is what are the biggest challenges that you see within the industry? We've talked about resources and people, and maybe that's your answer, but where do you see the biggest challenges?
Resources and people, definitely, and also finding new resources. Obviously the easy stuff that got found quickly has been mined, so we're going to have to start looking in more and more hard to reach places. And who knows, maybe that actually now starts leading to places like Mars, the moon, asteroids. I mean, people have been loosely talking about that, but it's going to end up there. I mean, I'm always, history I never took at school. I never had an interest for it then. It's the sort of thing that interests you later, and just through reading and things. And it's interesting how history repeats itself. I mean, you had Columbus going across the Atlantic to the Americas, and that was an epic voyage. Well, we've got similar things now with Musk trying to get to Mars. It's a similar concept. It's the will, or it's the human will to explore and move on. But yeah, the stakes increase. But at the end of the day, it's the same primal urge. And once we've reached Mars, we'll want to explore further, and to build those ships to take everything from Earth, I think, will just be astronomically expensive. So they'll start mining the moon or asteroids and building the spaceships in space. So I think that's quite an exciting thing to look forward to. And the scary thing is, it might not be in my lifetime, but in my daughter's lifetime, I think definitely you'll start seeing that.
Yeah, my wife and I joke, we've got young kids and we're talking about driving and teaching kids how to drive. And our youngest is 3. And it's like, well, I don't even know if she'll ever drive. Will we still have cars, in 10, 12, 15 years?
It's exactly it. I mean, already, you've got the Teslas driving themselves. Knowledge has just hit a vertical. It's growing so fast. I mean, you think back to, let's take our current situation at the moment with COVID. I mean, the way the world has changed through this, it's phenomenal. The onboarding of conferencing, video conferencing, communication, working from home, the decrease in need for office space now. I mean, a lot of companies are just drastically decreasing the amount of office space they require, because people are hot desking more, working from home, only coming in when they need to. It's absolutely, and that's in 2 years. It's, if you said 2 years ago that we'd be working like we are now, they would have probably laughed you out of the room. Yet here we are.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I know for us at Prime Contract Solutions, I mean, our office is closing next week. We just don't need it. We've had it, but we don't need it anymore for a small team. And I know larger companies as well, have substantially reduced their footprint, from an office space standpoint. It's kind of, where do you find the balance? I mean, I think there's, in my opinion, virtually is great. You and I think, are having a good human conversation. At the same time, I think for larger groups, it's harder to do it virtually. And there's something to be said about reading somebody's body language and being eye to eye and building that relationship. But you can do a lot virtually. And I think we've demonstrated that over the course of the last couple of years, as you've highlighted.
No, absolutely. No, I also think completely virtual or completely in the office, I don't think that's the solution anymore. You need to find a hybrid. You need to find a mix of both that works for the industry you're in. And different industries will have different requirements. And totally you just got to find that sweet spot.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there are people that are really trying hard to to find that sweet spot. So it's interesting to see the different models that people are putting into place.
Mm.
Here
But
in the
it's,
States, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's through disruptions like we've just been through that we test these boundaries. If you get too comfortable, you tend not to test it, and you don't push it forward. But in that way, disruption is good. It gets you to challenge your current beliefs and your current mannerisms and see what other options there are.
Absolutely. And philosophically, I agree with you from a lifestyle standpoint. Those that know me know I wear a shirt that says fail forward every day. That's got my company logo on it, because that is exactly how you evolve and how you get better, is by that disruption or that failure. So it's fail forward and fail fast is the name of the game in my world.
And if you fall down, don't get disheartened. It's just that you found one way that doesn't work. That's okay.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, no, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work.
That's right. That's right. What does Einstein say? You never fail if you don't quit, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And we're very much in a world where if you're not trying new things, you're going backwards. You're going to become irrelevant.
I agree. No, I agree. Particularly within the industry right now. I think there's so much changing and moving and so many dynamics that there will be people that are left behind. Some that will emerge, but there will be people left behind.
Yeah. No, it's definitely sort of bringing out people's mindsets and people's attitudes towards the world and the world of work in general. If you're willing to kind of get stuck in, you're going to succeed. But if you're not willing to get stuck in and you want to be a passenger, well, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. One of my kiddos' school has a saying that there's no passengers, only crew. So if you're going to be part of the evolution, you've got to put in the sweat equity too. Can't just sit on the sideline.
Yeah, you got to get involved.
You got to get involved. Yeah, that's great. That's really, really powerful point. So what would you give, James? What advice would you give for the new generations that are looking to get into mining, or maybe even not? What advice would you give to those young folks that you spoke of before? What are you telling them?
Well, number one, while they're still in school, they've got to try and engage with different industries. So they're more sighted in their choices of career. That said, as well, in the current world we're in, as I was talking about skills, the same skill can be used in various different industries. So people must have the entrepreneurial spirit and be able to jump between industries with those skills. I mean, the travel industry has been absolutely obliterated through current times. And all those people have skills that we were talking about mining and engaging with communities. That's customer service. I mean, travel industry, you want customer service, there's a whole lot of people right there that are more than willing to actually get stuck into that. And being in the tourism industry, they would be able to read people very well. I mean, you can repurpose those skills very nicely. So there's lots of opportunities like that out there. And just learn how to recognize them and use it to your advantage. That's one. Try and find back work. Get back work in various companies. We've had a few students through our offices working with us, learning, picking up how the industry works and seeing if they like it or not. So, and a lot of companies are willing to give you a chance as a student. And yes, you might do very basic menial things, but you're in the environment. You're seeing how it works. Don't turn things like that away. Speak to friends, parents who work in a company that you might be interested in working in, or an industry you might be working in. Things like that. Use your network. LinkedIn, Facebook. There are lots of negative things about them, but there's a lot of good as well. And use your network. And I think going forward, that is definitely going to be a skill that people need to work on it, and that's network.
I've never thought about it in that context, but I think that is a skill. I mean, intuitively, I know that, but it is a skill. So I haven't really thought of it in that light. I like that. It's true. It's really, really true. And that's exactly what drove me to want to speak with you today on this podcast, because you're an active voice within the industry and you are networking and trying to do things better. So I really appreciate that about you. And I think we all benefit from it. So thank you for that. The next question I'd want to ask you, that we ask all of our guests, which is a two-parter, which is, where do you want the industry to go? One, in 10 years, and then two, where do you think it's going to be? You spoke about mining the moon and Mars and stuff like that, but I'll give you a chance to maybe dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, we've spoken about building spacecraft and things, so I think it's definitely going that way. People are probably going to start mining on the bottom of the oceans as well, using autonomous craft, more robots. I mean, old Spot from Boston Dynamics is making quite a splash. So yeah, definitely using technology to take people out of harm's way.
Sure.
Bring in designs that sort of, and this is not to decrease jobs at all, but it's to keep people out of harm's way. The man-machine interface in mining it's a huge risk.
Definitely.
So seeing what's available to take people out of harm's way, that's actually really what I'd want to see going forward in the mining industry. And yeah, just the excitement of possibly being able to mine places that are out of this world.
Literally.
Literally.
Yeah, no, for sure. Excellent. Okay. Well, James, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me today. It's always interesting to understand, the leaders within our industry, what they're up to, what they think, how they think, why they think. So I appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts with all of us today. So appreciate that.
That's my pleasure.
So
thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Final question, James, which is, if people want to know more about the UMS group of companies or James Kerr, what's the best place for people to chase you down?
There are a number of ways. You can contact me via LinkedIn, James Keir. UMS has a LinkedIn site as well, or via the UMS homepage, which is www.umsint.com.
Okay.
Or they can email me, jamesk@umsint.com.
Beautiful. Okay. And we'll make sure we put those in the show notes for folks as well. So
perfect.
Really appreciate it, James.
Thanks for having me again.
You got it.
It's been great.